Welcome to Gentex Multimedia live stream for Tuesday, November the 3rd, streaming live to your device from sunny Brisbane, the best city of Australia. Victoria celebrated the Melbourne Cup, but no crowds at Flemington. The US is counting down the final hours of the presidential election, and Europe is scrambling to get the latest wave of COVID-19 pandemic under control. So follow us throughout the day for key breaking news, developments, coronavirus updates and live streams from Australia and from around the world. Well, right now, before we move on to the news proper, let's take a very quick look at the weather for today on this beautiful day of November. With that, let's welcome Dilraj.
Good morning everyone. Weather forecast for the rest of today is maximum 29 degree. Brisbane area is mostly sunny with no chance of rain. Light winds becoming east to northeasterly 15 to 20 km per hour in the middle of the day, then tending to become north to northeasterly in the late afternoon. Fire danger is high. Sun protection is recommended till 20 past 3 and UV index is predicted to reach 11, that is extreme. Till tomorrow, stay safe and have a good day.
And thank you very much for that, Dilraj. Well, making news today, RBA cuts interest rate to a historic low of 0.1%. And the Melbourne Cup updates and results, and of course the disaster that happened there, live updates of US election 2020, the much awaited one. South Australia to open borders to Victorians, and Victoria records no new COVID-19 cases in a fourth straight day. So here the top stories for today: more than 400 people arrested and police officer with suspected broken arm following a Victorian protest. Restaurant in Sydney ordered to close. More than a dozen arrested in an anti-government protest in Melbourne CBD. One new local COVID-19 case in New South Wales and 3 new coronavirus cases in Queensland. And the Queensland-New South Wales border is to open to residents of regional New South Wales only. Another day of 0 cases and 0 deaths in Melbourne, which is great. Boris Johnson's labelled that he has been too slow behind the curve on England's lockdown. So, when we look at the lockdowns, either you are too quick or you are too late. So it's quite an challenge to make the best use of the resources that are there, meaning the health advice that you receive, and if you don't act on that in a timely manner, then of course there is the backlash for that. Well, before we go into the news proper, let's take a quick look at all the headlines for today.
Donald Trump says economic success will bring Americans together if he wins 4 more years in the White House. He's wrapped up a final day of campaigning and dropped in to thank staffers at Republican Party headquarters in Virginia. Mr. Trump says early signs are very good in key states like Florida, Arizona and Texas, and he's confident he's done as much as he can. Joe Biden began the day with a visit to his childhood home in Scranton, Pennsylvania. The state is seen as one of the most crucial battlegrounds in his bid to secure enough electoral college votes to take the White House. Polls are now open in all US states. More than 102 million people have already voted by mail or in pre-polling. Victorians might be allowed into New South Wales within 3 weeks as Gladys Berejiklian weighs lifting border restrictions. The Premier has previously indicated cross-border travel would be permitted after restrictions have been eased across Victoria for at least 2 weeks. Animal welfare experts say more needs to be done to make horse racing safer following yesterday's horse fatality at the Melbourne Cup. Irish import Anthony Van Dyke became the 6th horse in 7 years to die after being injured in the Melbourne Cup. Stewards have also fined jockey Karen McAvoy $50,000 and suspended him for 13 meetings for the excessive use of his whip while riding Tiger Moth. Connections of Twilight Payment are continuing celebrations after taking out an upset win in the race.
So they were up to date, and when we look at that case of the horse, that is rather unfortunate, and of course there's been a lot of calls, to say that should be banned, that it should not happen again. Well, right now, as we know that RBI has cut the interest rates, let's take a look at why and how from the Governor of RBI.
Why make this change today? Why move now? It's an understandable question, especially given that we're easing monetary policy further today at the same time as we're upgrading the forecast for the near-term outlook for the economy. Apart from the general case for further monetary easing that I've already spoken about, there are a couple of other factors that have influenced the timing. The first is that over recent months, we have learnt about the pandemic and its economic impact. As the months have passed, it's become increasingly apparent that there are likely to be long-lasting effects from the pandemic, in particular higher unemployment. While the outlook does remain highly uncertain, we do have a somewhat clearer picture of the future state of the labour market. A sharp bounce back in jobs is unlikely, and it will take time to return to where we were before the pandemic. And we've responded to this clearer picture today. The second factor influencing the timing is that monetary easing is likely to get more traction today than would have been the case when there were widespread restrictions in place. In earlier months, the usual transmission mechanisms weren't working as normal, and the challenges facing the country were best addressed by other policy tools.
And we'll leave that report there as we have heard why and how the rates have come down to this historic low. Well, right now it's time to go to the real estate news, and with which has been presented on behalf of GlobeNet Realty. And today Usha is not here because he has an appointment that he really needed to attend to, but we have the right here. Well, of course, we know that yesterday being Melbourne Cup, so the GlobeNet team were right there, enjoying their Melbourne Cup lunch in the local Hampstead. Wonderful to see everyone getting together there. But needless to say that regardless of, having the Melbourne Cup lunches, they have always been very busy and lots of sales that's been happening. And here's another quick side of another vendor, a very satisfied vendor for another very quick sale, listed and sold within a week. So, it is wonderful to see that so many things are coming on and that they do not last on the market for long at all. So right now, let's take a look at a report on behalf of GlobeNet Realty and see what's been happening in the finance and, of course, also in the in what's known as the property market. So right now, in a move that was widely speculated, the RBA reduced the official cash rate to another record low of 0.1%. 29 out of 43 or 67% of experts predicted the November cut. However, the RBA board also decided to introduce a package which will further measures and aimed at creating jobs and recovering Australian economy from the COVID-19 pandemic. So, you are listening to Australian Indian Radio, and this is a special segment with GlobeNet Realty. So these elements include the purchase of $100 billion of government bond to maturities and around 5 to 10 years over the next 6 months, a reduction in the interest rate on the exchange. So, Reserve Bank has done well. A reduction in the interest rate of the exchange settlement balances to zero in reduction of the interest on new drawings under the term funding. So these are new rules and they will be very good to, for the economy. So term funding facilities to 0.1% and a reduction in the target of the yield on the 3-year-old Australian bonds and government bond, which will be around 0.1%. Under the new circumstances, and it is wonderful to see that all these are happening. So the percentage point under the program to purchase longer dated bonds, the RBA said it will buy bonds issued by the Australian government and of course the states and the territories with it as well. So what's happening there is expected it will be a 80-20 split of the property. It seems that all eyes are in Brisbane lately, with investors from around Australia appearing more optimistic that Brisbane will deliver the capital growth that some have been speculating for many years. But what's happening on the ground? Are properties selling, and what types of properties are moving faster than others? And the most recent data has demonstrated that Brisbane has been a relatively flat market over the last 12 months. This is during the same period that the property markets in Sydney and Melbourne have experienced decline in medium value. We continue to be advised that Australia is not one property market despite what the headlines might report. There are several markets around Australia that have not experienced any negative price growth at all. The promising thing is that there are 4 sub-regions in Brisbane that are actually performing quite well compared to the sub-regions within the capital cities, which are nationwide. In fact, the inner east, the inner west, northern Moreton Bay and southern Moreton Bay regions have been within the top 10 sub-regions for capital growth across Australia for a few months. There is therefore important to understand the performance of the market within that. So better understanding of property values and movements can be obtained for investors in Brisbane. Still presents an affordable option with attractive yield. Obviously, in the current credit environment, serviceability has become a more important, and therefore many investors see the opportunity in our local market as an investment strategy to be tailored to their needs, with higher yields to offset holding cost as well as good capital growth opportunities. We are certainly finding a lot of interstate investors are particularly attracted to the opportunities in the sub 500k price point, where gross yields can be unfold into 5% of the areas, with historical growth rates in excess of 5 to 6% in Brisbane. Queensland generally has been experiencing an increasing rate of interstate migration over the past 2 years. This may be partly due to much better housing affordability than compared to Sydney and Melbourne, but due to lifestyle factors that drive people to Sunshine State, Greater Brisbane's population is expected to hit the 3.6 million by 2041. Currently, our population is approximately 2.4 million, and this growth requires building significantly new homes in the year between now. The growth is also being supported by more than 25 billion infrastructure studying amongst the largest projects currently underway. We have the Cross River Rail project and the Metro project, which will change the way Brisbane commuters can get access to Brisbane CBD. And of course, the second runway precinct in Heston, as well as new hotels and restaurants at Howard Street, which is down the road. To the optimism of the region, Queen's Wharf, an integrated resort and casino, will put Brisbane on the international map for tourists that will transport a significant portion of CBD Riverbank precinct. These large projects help create jobs for many of the people moving to southeast corner of Brisbane, and these need to be somewhere. Which is interesting that the trend for the total number of dwelling approached in Queensland fell 3.9% in January, and the trend for the number of private sector houses also fell 1.4% when we have fewer homes being built, an increasing number of people moving to the region, and the fundamental economic principles of supply and demand come into play. We are likely to see an upward pressure on prices as a result. Of course, the stricter lending environment has caused some headwinds for home buyers and property investors alike. We also have impending federal election, which will create some uncertainty for property buyers all across Australia, but with many experts now tipping Brisbane to be promising opportunities it presents. It might be wise to position your property portfolio between the positive growth that is likely to come throughout the southeast corner of Queensland in the very near future. This report has been brought to you by GlobeNet Realty Bundle, your local area experts and the longest established agency in its trade area. So, ladies and gentlemen, that has been this week's property report brought to you by GlobeNet Realty, as we said, and right now it's time to go into the news in brief, and let's take a look at what's making news. Well, first of all, of course, we need to look at the cause of Van Dijk and what actually happened in the race. And there are so many calls for, bringing in tighter measures around the horses. As you can see that, and as reported before, that, it is very, very alarming, and people have actually, started a lot of protest on what's happening and why and how this could happen. And it is not the first time that it's happened. So when we look at, this kind of things that are happening, people are calling out for animal cruelty. It is distressing. An Irish stallion, Anthony Van Dijk, was euthanized after he suffered a fetlock fracture during the running of Melbourne Cup ride. And of course, the rights that we have talked about, let's see why and how, and have a very quick look at the analysis on that.
Today, the bank promised not to raise the interest rate until the inflation rate is back up into its target range of 2 to 3%. Inflation's now been low for a few years, currently sitting at 0.7%.
For inflation to be sustainably within the target range, wage growth will have to be materially higher than it currently is.
The RBA will also keep interest rates low by buying government bonds from the commercial banks, using its purchasing power to drive down returns on 3-year bonds to just 0.1%. It'll also spend an extraordinary $100 billion on 5 and 10-year bonds.
So, that was the rate that stopped our nation this time, rather than the race that stopped our nation. So let's take a look at that in-depth analysis.
It was a sure bet. The Reserve Bank was going to move today. The most stunning part of the RBA's announcement is its launch into quantitative easing. It's what we've seen the US and European central banks do since the GFC to stimulate their economies. So, to the details. The cash rate has been dropped from 0.25 to 0.1%. The RBA will spend $100 billion buying government bonds over the next 6 months, and the Governor said he'll do more should it be needed. The rate at which banks can borrow from the RBA has also been cut to a stunning 0.1%. These extraordinary measures come despite the RBA lifting its growth and employment forecasts. Here's Rachel Papazzoni.
It's been almost a decade since interest rates were cut on Melbourne Cup Day, and never before has the Reserve Bank fronted the media after such a decision. But an extraordinary year requires an extraordinary response.
At its core, today's decision reflects the Reserve Bank Board's commitment to do what we reasonably can with the tools that we have to support the recovery of the Australian economy.
The bank has cut the cash rate from 0.25% to the new record low of 0.1%. And in moves still new in Australia, it's ramping up quantitative easing. That involves pumping $100 billion into the economy by buying government bonds. And it's also cutting the rate on cheap credit to the banks, which should lower borrowing costs for households and businesses.
Another aim for the RBA is also to lower the exchange rate. And the exchange rate, a lower exchange rate does make our exports more competitive, and that helps to lift economic activity as well.
Mark and Verity Reason's lender didn't pass on the full rate cuts in March, but they hope this time will be different.
I'll be looking either to negotiate a lower interest rate or looking to another lender.
They're banking on the extra saving after Verity was put on JobKeeper.
We could end up going back to one income, so to have a lower interest rate would be immensely helpful.
But while rate cuts are great for people with a loan, they're not for savers like Ankita Gangaramani.
It's really impacted me in terms of the amount of interest that I gain on the actual savings that I make. So my money isn't exactly growing.
She's seen her interest rate with one of the big four banks shrink since the start of the pandemic.
When I started on with them, it used to be a percentage, then it fell down to about 0.9%, and now it's falling even further.
She's now earning just 0.5% interest on her savings. While interest rate cuts are what consumers feel the most, it's the Reserve Bank's huge injection of cash that signals the pressure our economy is under. For more than a decade, it's refused to be drawn into a game of manipulating interest rates and the currency. But with rates cut to the bone, there's no alternative if we're to remain competitive in a global economy.
The RBA could certainly up its bond purchases. There are other policy measures available, potentially taking the cash rate into negative territory if needed. There certainly are options.
So there's the news on the interest rate cuts, and of course there's always negative and always positive, but I think the positives greatly outweigh the negatives. Of course, there will be some people who will be out of pocket, but generally speaking, that is in line, as was said by the governor, in line with what has happened overseas during the GFC as well. So going on those trends and based on those predictions, that move was quite well taken, is what I say. Well, now going to the terror attack in central Vienna. Now this is alarming, disturbing, and it is growing. So this time in Vienna. So the Interior Minister blames Islamist terrorists for the attack. A terror attack in central Vienna has left 5 people dead, with at least 1 gunman remaining on the run, Austria's Interior Minister says. Let's take a look at that report.
Der ausgeforschte Täter war mit einem Sprengstoffgürtel, der sich als Attrappe herausgestellt hat, und mit einem Sturmgewehr schwer bewaffnet. Der Attentäter war ein Sympathisant der Terrormiliz IS. Derzeit finden intensive Ermittlungen und Maßnahmen, die ich aufgrund ermittlungstaktischer Details nicht beschreiben kann, im Umfeld des Täters statt.
And as I mentioned before, that it is rather alarming and disturbing, with all these incidents taking place. Right here in Vienna, we saw the incidents in France as well. So it is sort of a way that people are concerned that what is happening to this world. Well, what's happening to this world? Let's go to US, where Lady Gaga joins Joe Biden in Pennsylvania.
I work for Lady Gaga. How y'all doing? Thank you so much for what you're doing.
Tell your friends.
Yeah.
Tell your friends, tell your family. Go out tomorrow. It's so important. Who believes in
And as expected, everyone's going gaga over Lady Gaga's appearance there. Well, right now, while that's happening, let's take a look at the polls. Let's see what the polls are saying. And can the US polls be trusted with this election result?
Charlie Cook is the editor and publisher at the Cook Political Report. Charlie Cook, when you take all of the polls together, all of the information that we've got, what is it suggesting about the presidential election result?
Well, I think, first of all, I'm not taking all the polls. I'm just taking the ones that are the good ones. And they're pointing to a Biden lead of about 9 or 10 points, and I think a pretty comfortable electoral college win.
A lot of people will remember 2016 and be wondering, can you trust the polls?
Well, the polls actually weren't too far off. I mean, the average was Hillary Clinton 47, Donald Trump 44. The final result, 48-46. That's not very big. People were focused on the popular vote when the Electoral College is how we determined the winner. And that was the first big divergence we've seen between the Electoral College and the popular vote like that in over 100 years.
Is it possible that we'll see the same gap this time between the Electoral College and the popular vote?
Oh, I think you will. See, Hillary Clinton won California by a 4.3 million vote margin, New York by 1.7 million, Illinois by 950,000, once you have one more vote than the other side, you don't get bonus electoral votes for running up the score. So Democrats waste a lot of votes winning certain states by huge margins, and the states that Republicans win by big percentage margins typically are small, medium-sized states, and the big states they typically win by smaller margins. So,
well, so there we go. That's the margins that they're talking about, and well, we'll just wait and see. Well, right now it's time to go to a commercial break, and this time we'd like to thank our sponsors for this segment, Woolworths. Woolworths helps customers celebrate Diwali with expanded South Asian product range. Diwali preparations are now made easier with more convenient and special South Asian products available in selected Woolworths stores across the country. Diwali occupies an unparalleled space in the hearts of people, and on this auspicious occasion, Woolworths has embraced the importance of the role that food plays during Diwali and is offering tailored products for the South Asian community available in over 200 stores nationally and also online. The range of products includes snacks, spices, rye, atta, flour, and other cooking ingredients to help create a favorable special dishes during the festive period. These specially sourced products not only offer popular food items but also great convenience for the South Asian community in Australia to help them prepare for the Diwali celebrations. And when we talk about that, let's take a look at one of the packs that they have put together, a sample pack, and with that and we're going through the pack and explaining what's in the pack, we'd like to welcome our marketing manager, Dr. Charita Deshpande, who will be explaining what's in that pack that has been put out by Woolworths, and all these products are available in Woolies.
Edition, which is due to be published on 14th of November 2020 on the actual Diwali day. So here we are presenting a gift idea from Woolworths. So Woolworths has presented us with a gift box as a token of love and appreciation. So thank you Woolworths for this. So we would like to present this as a gift idea which you can use for your friends and families this Diwali. So let's see what's in the box. So first we have a card which says wishing you a very happy Diwali from Woolworths. And then our festival day starts with a cup of tea. So we have Red Label tea powder, which is very popular. And then we have savory foods like Haldiram's Chatpata Dal, and then Haldiram's Bhujia Sev, which are like savory and very popular brands as well. And then we have another Bhujia packet here which says Ancient Grain Twist. We also have some sweet things like premium cookies, and then this comes in the sweet one. We also have Bicano premium jeera cookies, and then we have the very popular Good Day biscuits as well in this packet. And no festival is complete, especially the Diwali, without the besan laddu. So we have Bicano besan laddus as well. What an amazing pack it is. And then we have Little Hearts, which is very popular back in India among the children as well. And then we have all-in-one Haldiram packet as well. So we also have samosas, we have khatta meetha packet, and then we have few decoration items which you can use during the puja or to decorate your house during Diwali. And no festival is complete without firecrackers. So we have some sparkles as well, and then children will really enjoy using these sparkles. So this is a gift idea by Woolworths, and then you can use it, you can gift it to your family and friends this Diwali. So we'll be coming up again with many more updates. Till then, stay safe and stay tuned on this segment. Thank you.
And the wonderful that all that is available through Woolworths, and of course with the sparkles, always take care, exercise care while you're using that. But it's wonderful that all these things are there. So in the pack we saw things such as Parle glucose biscuit and the Parle rusk, as well as much loved Ching's noodles, and also available according to the opportunity, and easily enjoy these little treats for Diwali. So accompanied with the popular beverages, as we have seen there, was the Red Label tea, brew coffee, Khushi juices, and MTR Badam drink, key cans. Woolworths has customers meal, snacks, and gifting ideas covered for this Diwali. So there you are. If you're looking at Diwali ideas, you are now covered, and you can go to the Woolies, and all the products that have been displayed there are available there as well. So right now, moving on with the news segments, we'll go to US once again. Well, when you look at US with the elections coming up, disturbing news once again is that many stores have run out of guns and bullets. They've all been sold out.
Normally I would have about 100 guns in this cabinet. They've been sold twice.
It's almost like a deterrent more than anything else. My goal is to never ever have to use it.
My concern is for our seniors who are going to come out to vote on the 3rd and have to worry about seeing a bunch of people outside with guns.
These militiamen, they're radicals, you know. They consider them domestic terrorists, and they should be jailed.
So once again, America and its controversial gun laws, there are lobbyists and there are people who are opposing that, and that has always been, an angst of many of the leaders there, coming up with the right policies around guns. Well, when Johnny Depp loses the case against newspaper that called him a wife beater. Let's take a look at that report.
I'm so sorry, were you still talking?
In 2015, Johnny Depp was in Australia, starring in another Pirates of the Caribbean movie. His wife Amber Heard had joined him. The decision to sneak the dogs in stole the headlines back then, but a UK courts found there was something far worse happening inside that Gold Coast mansion. Ms Heard was being repeatedly assaulted.
It was a pretty damning judgment against Johnny Depp's claim.
The 57-year-old actor sued The Sun newspaper over an article that called him a wife-beater. During a trial earlier this year, he claimed she was the aggressor in their relationship. Amber Heard told the High Court that Depp could be a monster and had assaulted her on 14 occasions during their time together, kicking, punching, headbutting and slapping her. The judge found the claims of domestic violence were substantially true.
Johnny was hitting me, and he was hitting me hard and repeatedly.
This was all about attempting to clear his name and sort of vindicate his reputation.
Now that is just not on, coming on to our White Ribbon Day, which will be on 20th of November. This is the kind of things that we advocate against. Regardless of whether she was the aggressive one, it still does not call for domestic violence. There are other ways and means of dealing with the situation. So that is the awareness that we are trying to raise out there in the community. Well, right now, let's take a quick look at some of the functions and events that are happening around Brisbane. As we know, that the Diwali function for GoPio will be this weekend, and of course we will be covering that, and we have covered that in quite a few of our segments. But right now we're going to talk about today is we will be talk about FICQ and its Diwali, and with that we'd like to welcome to the studio Shyam Das, the president of FICQ.
Namaskar. With great pleasure and delight, the Federation of Indian Communities brings to you Diwali 2020. It's a festival of lights, festival of peace, happiness and joy. Diwali symbolizes a victory of good over bad. Due to COVID, we are live streaming the entire program. Come and join us virtually and celebrate the festival and bring brightness in everyone's life. Have a wonderful Diwali. May the coming year be full of happiness, prosperity and peace for everyone.
And that's the message there from FICQ for their upcoming Diwali. And of course this weekend is GoPio Queensland's Diwali, and if you haven't booked your tickets, you can go online and book the tickets there as well. Right now it's time for a commercial break.
GlobeNet Realty. GlobeNet Realty has been the longest established, trusted and respected agency in its trade area. Washa Chandra, Director of GlobeNet Realty, provides honest and ethical service to her customers. If you are thinking of investing in Brisbane real estate market, or if you are seeking professional property management, then you should contact Usha Chandra today on landline 3865 4466 or mobile 0419 775 416. And for further updates, log on to our website www.globenetralty.com.au. GlobeNet Realty is your own local real estate agency. Situated at Shop 52281 Sandgate Road, Boondall. GlobeNet Realty. Real estate is our world.
GlobeNet Realty, which is the leading agency in its area, and we saw the property update brought to us today, courtesy of GlobeNet Realty. Well, right now let's take a look at all the functions and events that are taking place in and around Brisbane, and don't forget that some of these would be taking place virtually. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being with us for this segment. It's been wonderful to have your company as usual. And today we would like to leave you with something which is rather uplifting. Let's take a look at some of the whales as they swim around and have a bit of a play in the water off Tasmanian coast. So, this vision is brought to you by the courtesy of Pennycourt Wilderness, Janice, and especially Mark Higgins. So credit is given to him for this beautiful clip. This is our Tasmania.
Well, this is very unusual.
So isn't that so wonderful? It's marvelous to see, nature, and of course animals in their natural habitat is where they belong. And, if you leave them alone in their own areas, that's so wonderful to see. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as we know, this is the Diwali, and our Diwali issue will be coming out very soon. If you haven't booked in your well wishes or your messages, your articles, your ads, you still have a little bit of time, but not a lot. So if you really want to be in this upcoming issue, as Dr. Charita Deshpande said before, please do act quickly, and if you contact her or our office to get your articles, your ads in, you'll get it in for this one. And of course, I'd like to tell everyone that this will be a bumper issue, and we've had quite a good response, so you don't want to miss out, as we know restrictions are easing slowly, and of course that means that more people are gearing up for the upsurge in the market. So don't leave it until it's too late. Act now, as the market will be moving. You don't want to be left behind. It's been wonderful having your company. It's always so good to see you. And until tomorrow, it's goodbye from me. Have a wonderful rest of today, but most importantly, remain safe.